I'm Aaron Luber. I head up content partnerships for the Google Cardboard team, the Google VR team. I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview and rundown. We've got a lot of really great people that are going to be talking in more depth on different types of topics from a more technical perspective to more creator perspective, really across the gamut. So we really hope that you kind of leave here today with a lot of different information. But before I even start, hands for people who have obviously seen cardboard. You've got cardboard in your hands, right? You've seen it before? All right. What about a Gear VR? All right. Oculus Rift? Okay, well, okay. HTC Vive? Fewer hands. PlayStation VR? Yeah? Well, the great thing about VR is that it doesn't matter whether you have or have not seen it, haven't seen it. We're all in the same place right now. We're all at day one. We're all starting from scratch. So whether you are an expert like myself, who's been doing this for about a year and a half, or you are brand new, it really doesn't matter. We're all trying to figure out a lot of really, all the real details right now that's going to kind of pave the way for what we're doing in VR. So today, I want to talk about what kind of YouTube, what Google is doing very focusedly around VR and what we are doing and what we've been doing that we think is very impactful to the VR ecosystem. We've got YouTube 360, we've got something called Jump, and we've got Cardboard. And those three things together have been effectively blowing people's minds. We've been really happy that it's been doing that. It's been doing that since day one when we started as a 20% project back at Google I/O in June 2014. And since then, it just continues to kind of like gain this traction that we really unexpectedly didn't see coming. But there's a lot of things that are happening right now. And so, what is VR and what do you have to start with in VR? Well, when you have imagery that surrounds you, when you have sound that is directional, meaning like binaural in different places and you can kind of see it all coming together, when you have motion tracking working, and when it's all done right and brought together, you have immersion, right? And when you take immersion and then you kind of make a shift in your point of view and your brain starts kind of seeing what that kind of shift is, you get presence, right? And these are the core pieces of what we are trying to achieve in VR. And that is achieved by doing content in a really, really good way. And we've got some folks from Visualize. We've got Tom Small, who's going to be coming up from the YouTube Spaces team. We're going to really talk about content in a really, really impactful way. I'm sure if you've done VR, you've seen probably a wide range of content from simple 360 stuff to maybe some more immersive and presence things. But it's really those two things that really deliver on really, really great content. Those guys are going to be diving into it a little bit more. So what is happening, though, is we're getting a lot of hype right now, right? We're getting a lot of hype in the VR space. And everybody's really, really read articles nonstop. I mean, literally articles every day about VR right now, which is amazing. But there's a lot of hype. It's building a lot of hype around what this is and what people want to do with it. But why is that happening right now, right? Because people talk about why, VR, I thought this was something that was in the 90s. Why is it, happening right now? Well, in 20 years ago, VR was more like this crazy contraption, right? It was low frame rate, high latency. It had a bad resolution, and it was just prohibitively expensive. You had to do too many crazy things, right? What has happened now in starting 2014 and now into 2015, 2016, we are now in a place where we've got the ability to deliver higher frame rates through things like a mobile phone or through displays, higher resolutions, and we've made things accessible. And that's really the core to what Google is working on. We are working on things that are accessible and achievable and shareable and tools that we want creators and companies to be using so that they can, at the end of the day, make more great VR content that is going to help push along this entire industry. One of the things that we're going to dive into a lot today is Jump, Google Jump. This is something we've been working on for over a year. It's something we announced at Google I/O in 2015, June 2015. Something we've been very, very excited about and happy about. As Stephen mentioned, it's something in partnership with GoPro, building the first camera called the Odyssey camera. The technology that is powering the camera is really kind of the key piece. There's three things that you need when we talk about jump. We're talking about a camera, we're talking about the technology, the assembler, and YouTube as a player. Now the camera is agnostic and really at the end of the day it just spits out an MP4 file that you can then take and put into whatever workflow that you might have, be it Adobe Premiere, Nuke, Maya, a lot of different things. But really what we've built with YouTube, which we'll dive into a little bit more, we think it's a great platform for mass VR adoption, mass VR audience. And so we're happy to kind of combine all these things together because today, making content in VR is very difficult, plain and simple. It's a very, very difficult thing that any creator is doing today. It's cost prohibitive. It is time consuming, resource consuming. The purpose in Jump, one of the purposes in Jump is to try to reduce so much of the stress that has been going into creating VR content. The assembler really is the key piece in all that because what we're providing is cloud-based stitching. Stitching, if you've done VR content, if you've made VR content, if you know what goes into making VR content, really the hardest piece is the stitching piece. It is just something that is, again, time-consuming, cost-prohibitive, resource-intensive. And what we've been able to do is take all that data out of the camera and put it into our cloud in a matter of hours, return that to the end user, perfectly stitched, seamlessly stitched, perfect stereo. It reduces all of that, frankly, BS that goes into the post-production for VR content. We hope that by enabling this to more people, we're going to have more content, better content, faster content. Instead of everyone getting all crazy about the post-production process, that goes away and everyone can just figure out and focus on good storytelling and making great content. So we're really, really excited. We have cameras in the wild now. We have cameras at the YouTube Spaces. We are working very, very closely with a number of different creators, a number of different companies that are going to be getting Odyssey cameras from GoPro. We're really, really excited to see more of this. We'll talk about a little bit more of that as we go on today. YouTube 360 is a destination that we have been curating content for since March. And I'm very happy to say that we're closing in on 1 million subscribers, 850 subscribers, 850,000 subscribers right now. But in about 9 months, we have achieved almost 1 million subscribers. We are curating content across the board. We've got a tremendous amount of creators that are making content, brands that are making content, big IP holders making content. It's really, really great to see the mass proliferation. We actually have over 150,000 360 and VR videos on YouTube today. That number continues to grow. So we're very, very excited about kind of the growth of YouTube. Once you take any video, as Stephen also said, today, if you have an Android device, you can take any 360 video on YouTube and turn it into cardboard mode. We have iOS support coming soon. It's the question of the day always as I talk to people. Promise you, it is coming soon. It is not a business decision. It is a technical decision that or a technical issue that we've been working through. But we completely recognize how important it is to have iOS support for cardboard, of course, based on the number of hands that went up for people who have iPhones. So it's really great because it means that any video on YouTube, 360 video can be watched in cardboard. Any video on YouTube can be watched in cardboard, whether it be theater mode or immersively around you. So then you go to the most democratizing thing that we have, which is cardboard, right? And you take all that, you create content, and now we have been able to mass distribute to a lot of people great VR content by the way of cardboard. And so what is cardboard? Well, it's cardboard, right? But more importantly, what cardboard started as a 20% project at Google. And so if you know anything about 20% projects, these are kind of side projects that people do. And the history behind it was 3 guys in our Paris Creative Institute. And they were kind of tinkering around. They wanted to take Street View. They wanted to see what that looked like in VR, in a kind of a first-person immersive way. They built a tiny little app. And they got some X-Acto knives out, and they got some lenses, and they built the very first cardboard. This is the very first cardboard. And they took that to Mountain View immediately. Got in a plane, straight to Mountain View. and they ran into our ex-SVP of Knowledge, Alan Eustace, who saw it first, and his mind was blown. And then he ran into Larry Page's office and said, Larry, you've got to see this. And then Larry started calling folks like Clay Bavor, who's now the head of VR at Google, and a small group of other people, about 10 people at the time, and said, this is something special. We want 10,000 of these at Google I/O. Please do that right now. And that was 6 weeks before Google I/O, June 2014. And so then those 10 people grabbed a few more people, and they effectively were able to get to Google I/O 6 weeks later, and Sundar, at the time, stood up on stage, and the last 15 seconds of his speech at I/O, and I'm paraphrasing, went something like, and by the way, we've got these for you. And that was it. And everybody was like, what was that? What do you, right? And people started filing out of the room, and we started handing it to people, and people started figuring out how to put it together. We've got these great videos where we just handed it to people for the first time, and they're ripping them out of the boxes. And this is the first version, by the way. You guys have our second version, which folds much easier. Also supports bigger phone sizes, different inputs, things like that. But the first version, if you've seen it, rips out, takes about 10 different steps to fold it together. So after people were kind of figuring it out, they start looking at it. People are like, oh my God, what's going on? And then effectively, we start blowing people's minds, right? And that was the magic. That was the magic moment. And we realized that we had something special in our hands because cardboard is a magical product. And I don't want to sound all googly about it, but it really is. It's one of those products. And like I think as product people and as people who are marketers and things like that, these are the type of things that we want to find because what they do is deliver on such low expectations. When you hand somebody a cardboard for the first time, they're like, what is this? A box? Like, what? Huh? And then you say, no, put your phone in here. And people go, lame, lame, lame. Oh my God. That is a magical moment. That is a truly magical moment. When you're able to deliver on low expectations and blow people's minds, you've got something special in your hands. And so we took that as a real note, and we said, okay, I think we've got something here. We're going to go and start making VR for everyone. And we did that. And we've now been able to distribute a lot of cardboard. We actually distributed, it's the largest reach of any VR platform. It's fun, accessible, bite-sized. But we distributed 5 million last year in 2015. And we're expecting to deliver over 20 million in 2016. That's our goal. And we're doing that through a number of different ways. We're doing it through branded campaigns. We're doing that through VR symposiums. No, we're doing it through a number of different projects, platforms. We have third parties. We've got, before I get into that, some stats. We've got, we're in 41 countries, 39 languages. We have over 2,000 apps today on the Play Store, with over 25 million installs of those apps. There are over 800 apps on the iOS store. We don't really have exact details on the App Store, so we can't get install data, but we expect that it's pretty high number as well. And then on YouTube, we've got over 350,000 watch hours of 360 and VR videos on YouTube today. So the stats have been pretty good, pretty staggering over the 5 million that we've distributed. One number that's not up here actually is the Cardboard demo app, the one that we told you to download. That's been downloaded 5 million times. So the correlation between number of cardboards distributed and number of installs is pretty good. So we've also been able to scale that number to 5 million based on a program called Works with Google Cardboard, which is this program. And the Works with Google Cardboard program, effectively, when we launched and we realized we had something on our hands, we went and open sourced the design. And you now have a number of third parties out there that have been making their own versions of cardboard. We've got about 15 certified vendors that make their own cardboard. And we sell those, or they sell those on online, and we curate that at google.com/cardboard. You can also go on Amazon. People buy them there. We've got cardboard for sale in a number of different ways. And one of the great ways, so one of the things that I think very surprising to us, and one of those, I guess, very mind-blowing moments that happened for Google was when we saw brands take cardboard and start putting their brand on cardboard. We really, really did not see that coming. That's probably the biggest surprise. So it started with Volvo. Volvo did the first one. with our good friends at Frame Store and RGA, and they did it at the LA Auto Show. It was a first-person drive around. They handed out 12,000 of them at the auto show. It went great. We're like, okay, we've got something here. Let's do more of this. We did 50,000 with Legendary Pictures at Comic-Con. We did 100,000 with AT&T as part of their It Can Wait campaign. And most recently, we did 1.3 million with the New York Times. This has all been US-based, and so you might have heard about this, you might have not heard about it, but this was a huge, huge moment for us personally, for the New York Times, and for the VR industry, to be very honest. It was a moment where I had people coming up to me saying, who had working in the VR, who have a VR company or work in the VR space, and they go, thank you so much. This was great that you guys did this. All my friends and family who had no idea what the hell I've been doing for the past year now understand that I work in VR and this is what it is. But no, it was great because this was an introductory moment. We were able to get VR into the hands of a lot of people, and it proved out that there is a model, there's a business model for brands and agencies and marketers to be taking branded cardboard and distributing it to a massive amount of people. So you need three things for a branded campaign real quick. You need cardboard, number one, duh. We make cardboard. We also have the Works with Google Cardboard program that I talked about, so we got a lot of cardboard out there. You need a distribution platform. You need some way to hand out cardboard to a lot of people. You need to be able to do it at a stadium. You need to be able to deliver it in the newspaper, with a newspaper to the front door. That's my New York Times reference with the dog, if you get it. Anyway. And then number three, most important, you need content. Most important. And that's what we're going to spend a lot of time in talking about today, content, and how important that is. And we've got some big, important thought leaders that will be coming up and sharing more about content and why it's so important for the VR space. But that really is this key piece that a lot of people, as we are envisioning, how do we do a New York Times things? How do we do distribute? This is the piece that is, sort of a last step measure. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to figure out how to distribute. We're going to do oh, and we'll do the content. We'll figure that out later, or we'll talk to a third party or something like that. What you need to do is be focusing on content from day one. It is the most important thing that we do. No one is buying cardboard. No one is buying a Gear VR. No one is buying Oculus because it's a hardware cool thing. They're buying it for experiences. They're buying it for the content that is going to go with these things. And the content is most important. So why is it important to Google? And this is I got a guy with a cardboard, anyway. Not funny. Okay. Why is it important to Google? Well, plain and simple, we're doing this because we think it's the future of computing. We believe it is the same path, same trajectory path as how we've gone from the first personal computers to the first smartphones to now the first heads-up displays. Plain and simple. It's not necessarily an entertainment thing. It's not a gaming thing. It is just computing. We are a technology company, and we believe very much in technology and computing, and we see this as the next generation of everybody moving forward in the way that they're going to be accessing technology and accessing everything. But where are we today? We're right here. We're still in the early stages of where we are in technology for VR. We're not quite here. We're probably about here, but we have a long way to go. And so when you're thinking about like the VR industry today and where we're going and what's going to happen, it's a big question mark. But I think what's most important, as I get asked all the time, like what is the most important platform? What is the most important thing that's going on in VR? We could stand up here for hours and talk about this, but I like to look at it very, very simply. I think that the most important thing going on in VR right now today is this device right here. And I'm not being biased because this is effectively a cardboard device. We worked with Mattel. This is their new ViewMaster. Mattel resurrected the ViewMaster brand. It was a dead brand. I'm sure we all remember the little clicky thing, right, with the wheel, right, from our childhoods. They resurrected that thing. They brought it back as a plastic cardboard. You open it up, you put your phone in it. It's a great device. You should buy it. Great Valentine's Day present. But it's important. Why is it important? It's important because this is a product that's being marketed to 7 to 12-year-olds. And when I was a kid and we were doing, the ViewMaster, we grew up to now be the targeted audiences that are live and breathe mobile. The audiences, the 7 to 12-year-olds will be 17 to 22-year-olds in 10 years, and those will be the audiences that we have to be targeting and monetizing and going after. They're the ones that are going to be excited and geared up and be breathing and living VR. That is the most important thing in the VR space for you to take away from today, is that this is a long-term roadmap that we are all excited about, and we need to be thinking far out, because this is technology that is coming just like mobile was coming 10 years ago, and now we eat, breathe, and live mobile. Same audiences are going to eat, breathe, live VR.